I'm in the studio today with a very, very special guest talking about a very, very special subject, something I'm really, really interested in. We're joined by Mr. James Finn, the mighty Finn as we call him down the gym, who's a psychotherapist. Is that right? Is that
Yep, that's it.
the professional word we call you? You know, we got speaking at the gym because, you know, we've all had our ups and downs and our bits and pieces going on, and we started speaking on the bike. And then I've noticed, especially over the lockdown, that more and people have contacted me, especially regarding men's mental health. You know, and in particular, I've got a question here like, why do men find it hard to open up if they're struggling or asking for help? I mean, I find myself, I'm a good talker, but to get to that level where I need to ask for help, even I find it hard. Do you find that in your profession more and more these days with men, or is it getting easier for men to talk about their mental health or their mental worries, or whatever, whichever way we want to call it?
I think I'm going to answer it the first part, why men don't approach mental health or come for help. It's number one is embarrassment and not wanting to be seen as weak, or not wanting to be seen as weak or needing to ask for help. That's what I find. And the stigma around mental health as well. You know, when you speak about it, it's almost like there's something wrong with me. It's interesting because when it does come to mental health, when it comes to physical health, it's very different. You know, we don't mind going to the gym, we don't mind working out, we get our physical health well. But when it comes to mental health, there's something about it, them feeling that there's something wrong with them. So the embarrassment is the main issue about asking for mental health. However, what I find is more men are coming to speak about mental health, but they need a bit of persuasion, and that usually comes in the form of the partner or family members.
Okay, and as a percentage in your practice, how many as male to female would you say?
8% of a male that come to see me.
Really?
8%, yeah. The numbers are high, and the reason for that being is that they feel more comfortable speaking to a male. It normalises, not in all instances, you know, there's good female therapists out there, but a majority like to speak to a male.
Yeah, I think myself, it wouldn't matter either or. I think once I've got that initial stage of actually going, and why do you think initially a man won't pick up that phone or even talk to a friend? I mean, I've got some very, very close friends, but and they're quite open with me. But to get to that level where you want to talk about those kind of inner things, demons you've got going, as should we call them, where you're struggling every day. Ladies are brilliant at it, as far as I'm concerned. You know, that they'll be talking and opening up and venting off, whereas guys, you know, we sweep it under the carpet. And only recently, this morning, to bring it to fruition, I follow a guy on, I think it's Instagram, and he's a surfer dude, and he said this morning, I can't believe it, I'm heartbroken. And one of his friends has took his own life, and only days ago, by looking at the reports, he was fine or looked to be fine and hiding it. So why do men hide it so well and not ask for help?
It's the perception. They don't want to be perceived as being weak or that there's something wrong with them. So that's probably that's what I find. You know, people in my therapy room. That's what happens. It's the perception of being seen as weak or something wrong. So they'd rather mask it and just pretend everything's okay. And when people do commit suicide, unfortunately, which does happen, no one really sees it. No one ever sees it. They go, oh, they were so happy. They were, you know, we just didn't see it. It's a facade.
It is a facade. I mean, there was a guy who used to come to our gym, not frequently, but he passed by, a lovely man, and he took his own life a year or so ago during lockdown. And like everybody else, we were shocked because outwardly you couldn't have wished to. Is there a certain? You know, I find it with comedians, and people who are more outgoing and more, you know, some people say to me, "Oh, everything's fantastic," which it isn't, as you know, because we've spoke. But is it a certain type of person, or is it you know, do men hide it behind smiles, laughs, jokes, or you know, are the signs you can look out for? I mean, I've got good friends, and you know, struggling with the girlfriends and this, that, and the other, and I will pick up the phone and ask them how they are, and they can easily say to me, "Oh, they're fine." is there something I should be looking for to help them? So the alarm bells ring for me to help, so I can help them.
It's whether they feel comfortable in exploring it, whether they feel safe enough or even accepted. I think that's a big key part in this, is whether they feel accepted and being able to share that. And when it comes with males with other males, especially the younger generation, it's getting better. That's what I will say. So anyone from 18 to 30 nowadays, it's great. They are speaking about it more. But over that age group, it's the perception of not wanting to be seen as weak, putting on a show that everything's okay. Like I say, a lot of people get caught out, when it comes to suicide, in that they say they don't see it. One of the biggest things is when they start giving things away. So they'll say, possessions that they value. That's one. They'll say, you can have this or you can have that, or that's usually a sign. But sometimes you can't see it. And that's the truth. That's the hard truth about it. You can't see it. I've heard of this outside the therapy room with men, especially men between the ages of about 38 and 52, where the suicide rate is high. So there was again, this is outside of therapy, so it's not breaking any confidentiality. But there was a guy, and he'd apparently been planning it for about 18 months, and nobody knew, and he'd left a note, and he was happy. But he'd left a note explaining why he killed himself. I
mean, some people say it's this is only one side of mental health. I'm only talking about it because of the guy this morning, but this is only one side of that's of an issue, because it doesn't have to get to that stage. But also as well, I hear people who unfortunately have gone that far and been to the depths of despair, I can only imagine, and they get called, he or she was a coward, they've left him or her behind. I know it's a sensitive subject to talk about, but surely people who come to you when they're that in the depths of despair, I think, I know it's thinking about the self, you might say, or some might say, but that you must have to be in such a bad state to actually do that.
It's a sense of hopelessness.
Yeah.
Where you feel nothing else is going to work. And usually that doesn't happen overnight, it's a build-up. That's invariably what I find. It will be a build-up over time. And it just becomes too much. You just can't see a way out. You can't see any positives in life. So when they do come to me, one of the first, I ask a couple of questions. It's, why don't you want to be here? And sometimes I have it thrown back as, why should I be here? That's the one. What is there for me to stay around for?
And just diversifying it slightly, because it is a sensitive subject, and it's not one size fits all, and not one cure fits all, I should imagine. What's the general thing men will come to you for? What's the normal general thing? Is it a certain subject? Was lockdown bad? Is it a certain subject? Is it more than one subject?
It's never that black and white. It's never usually just one subject. It's usually a build-up. But I want to go back to what we spoke right at the beginning about them coming through the door. Usually it's men on their own that can be problematic when they've got no support network around, because they keep it all to themselves. The men that I see usually have been prompted either by their partner or by a parent. And they come into the room and I'll say, why are you here? And it's like, well, the missus said I've got to be here. And doesn't matter. That's a start.
Brilliant.
That's a start. And
Brilliant.
I find a lot of partners, because they're around them all the time, so they can see it. When we were just with mates, we put on different personas or different facades for different situations. So when we're out with our mates, you don't want to bring the mood down, do you?
Of course.
So that's why a lot of people miss it. But when you're in a relationship, your partner, or when you're living at home, your family's going to see that change more so, because you can't put it on all the time. It's too exhausting.
Yeah.
So they'll a parent or a partner pick it up and say, I think there's something wrong with you. I've noticed that your mood's gone down. You're getting up a little bit later. Your motivation isn't there. You can't be bothered to do things, or you're a little bit more irritable. So they'll pick up on those little cues. and they'll say, well, I think you need to go and see someone. There's usually resistance at the beginning. They'll go, no, I'm fine, but eventually they come through the door.
And do you get many partners actually take their husbands, spouses, friends, or would a man knock the door on his own? And does it normally take a couple of 3 phone calls to you before?
No. What can happen, or what I find does happen, is the partner will ring me, or the parent, and then I'll say, any chance I can speak with him? And then they'll put me on the phone, and I'm very relaxed. I'm not, very uptight. How we are now, that's how I speak. What's going on for you? Why do you feel you need it? Just enough. That's all we need on the phone call. And I say, would you like to book in? And invariably they say yes. And that's it. That's the start then.
So the main part is for us guys is to actually make the effort, which is hard on our own, because if we've all had our bad days, myself included, where you just think, you don't want to bring anybody else down. You don't want to make you want to make people have a good day. So you hide it behind a smile. So it is hard for some people to actually detect that. Like you said, it's probably going to be a spouse or a friend or somebody around them all the time. So what advice would you give to anybody struggling as a man? It could be anything from, I get a lot of football friends who obviously don't get all that adoration anymore. They've got injured or whatever. They've lost their sense of purpose. And that's hard for them to cope with. I remember I was just at the NEC and we was doing a bit of a chit chat, and I spoke to one of the guys I was speaking to him, and he said to me, Dean, do you ever get a come down after doing all this? I says, yeah. I said, because you go back to brown letters and everything else, and everyone's patting you on the back. And I can't name the star, but I said to him, I says, and how about you? Do you ever get a come down? He goes, terrible. And it's not because some might say you're a needy person. I wouldn't say that guy I was interviewing was a needy person, but obviously, you're getting those pats on the back, you're in the limelight, you're at the expo, you're shaking hands, you're this, that and the other, and all the photographs, and then nothing. And he struggled with it. And we spoke backstage about it, and he really, whether he went for help or not. So it can be different reasons for different people, but
it's with that. It's more of a sense of identity, because you are getting recognition. It's there's a word for that. I don't know if to use it in this situation, which is called fragile high self-esteem, which is you feel good when you're getting the external validation. You feel great. But when you're away from that, then what? It's that question, who am I? That's quite common. Who am I in this? Where do I go now? You're on a roller coaster and you come off it, and it's like, well, that was great, but now what? So the advice, it can be trial and error when it comes to mental health, and it really can be. Some people can just manage on their own. They'll have that resilience. Others, it's if you feel something's wrong, it's acknowledging that something's wrong. And we don't do this enough. We don't acknowledge that something's wrong.
Is that men and women, or more men?
In my experience, because the majority is male, it's always been male with me. I'd say through the entire time I've done this, it's all I've seen more men than women. So yes, it's. I just want to go back, because I think it's important that we go back. When we were speaking about, it's just going out of my head now.
About why men don't.
Yes, sorry, that's it. Yeah. What happens is when you're out, you might have a problem, but when you tell the same person over and over again about the same problem, how do you feel?
You feel a bit of a burden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only do you go on,
you feel like you need 30 friends or 40 friends, so you can tell one a little snippet, then another one a little snippet, another one a snippet, because if you keep phoning that same person, and if I'm going to be truthful, honest to the people, the viewers and the listeners, even myself sometimes, a certain person, and I know this person's never going to change, he's not going to change, and I'll say blah blah blah, okay, he's ringing me, and I know there's nothing I can do or say, because I've tried to change that person's mind, and I have thought,
they have to want to change.
Yeah.
You have to take responsibility for yourself. first and foremost. You have to take responsibility for yourself. And that's whether making the phone call, going through the therapy door, whatever that looks like, you have to do it yourself. Some people, believe it or not, are happy where they're at. And if that's the case, you just have to leave them like that, unfortunately. But others, what compounds the issue is they tell one person and then they say it again and they say it again and they feel like they're being a burden. So not only do they feel burdened themselves, they feel like they're burdening somebody else. So then they withdraw, and that's when it becomes problematic. When you have therapy, it's very, very different because it's your space. I say to everyone, it's your 50 minutes, use it however you want it. And they do, and they begin to make sense of what's going on for them. A lot of the time, they don't recognise themselves within the situation or recognise that they can actually do something. And you can, of course you can. But it's recognising that. But sometimes when like with depression or low mood, there's that sense of hopelessness. And it's about and also their belief system, the belief what they can do. When you're in a therapy room, I challenge that. And again, it's giving them that sense of empowerment. So,
and I've always said as well, don't ever be embarrassed of crying. You know, I've had a situation, I know it's talking about me, there's only meeting here to talk about, so hopefully by me opening up as well to a certain degree, you know, people are going to see the honesty and the truthfulness of what we're talking about. You know, there's been times when I've had to pull my car over for one thing or another and have a good cry. And I thought, okay, you know, we're going to sort this out. And what I've done, I've bought books, and they've really helped me. And not only that, they've helped the people around me because I have become a better person. So for me, saying to the viewers and listeners, or no, what would you, for me, I took ownership and think, right, I'm not going to be a very nice person to be around if I carry on like this. And also, not that the other person or the other situation, what got me in that situation, make me feel like that, is winning. I thought, no, hold on, I've got my life here. I've got 20 good years left in me. I can't go out like this. Yeah. And, you know, so what would you say to somebody now who's not feeling too good and having a bit of a bad day, but it's becoming more and more regular, and it seems to be recurring? Or what would you say to try and get someone to go and see someone like yourself? Because I think it's so important that these guys, big guys, do cry. They do cry, and they cry a lot. So as I was just saying before, we had a little bit of a sound problem there. Big boys do cry. So if you was going to give one piece of advice to a man, or as we are talking specifically about men in this question here, but ladies as well, obviously, if you've got to a point where you are struggling and you just can't sit up into it, what bit of advice would you give?
Acknowledge it and recognise it. Don't pretend it's something that it isn't. Don't pretend that it doesn't matter, because it clearly does, because you got to a point where things are getting you down and you do feel overwhelmed. So the first step is acknowledging it. Even if you write it down, just if you write it down and say, I'm feeling like this. But if you don't want to speak to anybody, that's absolutely fine, like close friends or where you feel you might be judged. Speak to a therapist. It'll be your space to use. But yeah, first and foremost, acknowledge it.
So I really hope that's helped you guys and girls out there. It's certainly helped me listening to you, especially for the men's side of it, because as I said from the outset, big boys do cry, and there's no shame in asking for help.
No,
there's no shame at all, and we all deserve a better life.
Absolutely.
We all do. Right, next question. Common problems you see coming through your door, i.e. anxiety, depression, self-esteem issues. What are your main problems, would you say, that come through your door on a daily basis? Those three things?
Those three things.
Really?
Yeah, those three things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So starting with anxiety. I mean, there's a certain level. We all get anxious. I'm not going to go and phone you because I feel a bit anxious. I'm a bit worried about this bill or that bill or whatever. I'm not going to call you for that. So what level of anxiety, what, you know, are there different levels of anxiety or what?
Yeah, it'll be where you no longer feel in control of it. It controls you when it comes to anxiety, because we all have anxiety at some level. It's good to have that, because it can energize us, it can motivate us. It's when it becomes debilitating, when you are constantly preoccupied with when's the next intrusive thought's going to happen, when is the next racing heart, the dry mouth, things like that.
I mean, we all, I think there's a word, you catastrophise things,
Yeah.
where, you know, I just call it blowing things out of proportion, you know, and then what I do, I write things down at the end of the day, 3 things, and I think, did I actually think that? And then at the end of the day, I'm going to bed thinking, well, that never happened, you know, because I might think, you know, say for instance, especially after lockdown, that was my album. Sorry to talk about me, but it's only me and you talking, and hopefully then you can relate to some of these subjects. But especially after lockdown, the anxiety of opening up that first day, and I was saying to perhaps Kurt or to Leon, say if nobody comes back, what we're going to do? So if nobody comes back to the gym, what we're going to do? And I remember not sleeping for about 4 to 5 days. So, and for me, that catastrophised and become all out of proportion, because as we know, everybody did come back, including yourself.
Yeah.
So, how do you control that, James?
Well, first of all, look at the situation. It was so uncertain at the time. So we were bombarded with negative information all the time. It was constant bombardment, whether it was on the news, on the radio, whether you read it online about what was going on. A good part of the world was closed down. We were thinking a lot of people were thinking they were going to die. They couldn't leave the house. So it builds up and builds up. And bear in mind also at that time, not many people went out. So there was no way of...
And we're social animals, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are. So one way there's a variety of ways of managing anxiety.
Because what I'm trying to say is, rather than, I'm just giving you my point there, because that's what caused a lot of my anxiety over the last 2 years. But in general, is when somebody comes to see you about anxiety, is it normally just a little thing which it can be sorted out? Is it something uncontrollable? Is it something manifesting in our heads? You know, what?
All of the above.
All of them.
Genuinely all of the above. It's so individual. And mental health is individual. So it could be somebody who's catastrophising, or I used a great example there. Well, if nobody comes back, what I say to a lot of my clients is, how often do you think things in your head and you think it over and you think this is going to happen and that's going to happen? How often does that happen? And 99% of the time, it never happens.
It doesn't. No.
I'll say that. I'll say, go on, tell me how often it's happened. They'll go, 0. It never happens, does it?
But that little man in your head's telling you.
That little man in that head does it. But it comes from, it does come from somewhere. That more than likely comes down to control. Because you're trying to preempt, aren't you?
Yeah.
Before you. So what we tend to do is try and control it with our thoughts, but our thoughts ultimately control us. So
it's the kind of thoughts you're having, what can help you get through the day.
Yeah.
Or basically the way you talk to yourself.
The way you talk to yourself is key, and it leads in with depression, low self-esteem, and anxiety. Without a doubt, the way we speak to ourselves, that internal dialogue that we have with ourselves. The words we use, whether we use negative words, whether we put ourselves down, that has a massive impact.
But isn't that a lot of our personalities, you know? Or is that something, you know, I'll read a book called the Chimp Management, where we talk about, you know, the human at the front, the chimp, what's always jumping around in my head in the middle, and the computer, what we draw on from past experiences. And sometimes to control that chimp or the brain, you know, what's trying to catastrophize, the part of your brain, what's trying to catastrophize everything, is quite hard.
The more you fight it, the worse. No, I don't know anybody who's ever won by fighting it.
No, you'll never beat the chimp. It's
just
too strong.
It just doesn't happen, so you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
The first thing you do, the first thing I teach some of my clients is just to acknowledge it. If we're going to give any advice, just what's going on for you right now, rather than going, I don't want to think like that. It's the don't think of a snowman situation. When you say don't think of a snowman, what's the first thing you do?
Yeah, think of a snowman.
So don't say, I don't want to. Of course you don't want to feel like it. Why would you? But just don't fight it. Acknowledge it.
So even if I woke up in the middle of the night, would you say, and you're worrying about, marveling about something, acknowledge it, and then to get back to sleep, hypothetically, would you meditate? What would you do to try and? How can you control anxiety? How can you control anxiety to the point where I'm not going to phone you, I'm going to try and manage myself?
I use the in the middle of the night example. a lot of that happens to people in the middle of the night. I can guarantee 9 times out of 10, if you've got high anxiety, it'll wake you up in the dead of night.
Or you could just literally, in layman's terms, go for a wee. You wake yourself up a little bit, then you can't get back to sleep because you're minding about something, which one is probably never going to happen. And then it kills 2 hours of your sleep time.
Of course it does, but it goes back to you trying to control it with your thoughts. That's what it is. It comes down to control. I'm trying to control it. So if I think of every possible situation, but the more situations you think of, the more you can think yourself out of it, and it becomes a spiral. I'll use a personal example. Quite a few years back, I've got a bit of a fear of flying. And I'd booked a holiday. And when I booked a holiday, I felt great. On the night time, that fear side decided to make an appearance, and I was like, 2 o'clock in the morning, thinking, you're going on holiday now, you're going to go on a flight, you're going on a flight. And it was the first time I learned to manage it. So I'm going back, I'm probably going almost 10 years. And I thought, what can I do about it now? What can I actually do? So I just said, okay, I'm feeling a bit nervous about the flight. No problem. And I literally went straight back to sleep. Just acknowledge it.
And what about the actual flight?
That was all right, actually. Actually, do you know what? It was okay. I love flying there, but it's on the way back for some reason. My anxiety goes through the roof. But it's fine to have that. It's okay to acknowledge it. It's not that you say, I don't want a completely anxious, anxiety-free or stress-free life, because you're asking the impossible. It's what you do with it in the here and now that's critical.
Yeah.
So in therapy, we look at ways of managing that in the here and now.
So basically, we've got to have a level of acceptance of a certain amount of anxiety. Yeah. Otherwise, you'd be living in la la land. You'd have to be, like you're on some type of happy pills because of, that's not reality, is it?
No, it's
not reality.
No, it's not. It's not reality.
But how does it get to a point of level where someone that feels like they have to come to see you for anxiety, which you said then leads to depression and self-esteem, but just deal with anxiety first?
Because they keep pushing it away. They fight it. They fight it, or they push it away and pretend it don't work, or it don't. Sorry, not don't work. It doesn't matter, but it does. There will always be a cost at some point. Sometimes people come in, they'll have a few sessions, and we'll just work on one isolated incident. That's great, and off they go. They've reset their levels and they feel in control. Others, you hit on something earlier on, and it comes down to our belief system. When you mention the negative words,
yeah,
it's the belief system we have about ourselves that plays a key in that. Whether we feel we're capable of doing that, or the opinion we have of ourselves. So there's a variety of things in there.
We can sound a bit big-headed, or I don't know how I'd put this across, but it's all right to like yourself and say you're a good person if you are a good person. And acknowledging that, there's nothing wrong with saying that. There is. I think sometimes when I'm beating myself up about something, I say, well, hold on, Dino. You're doing. I've got a lot of good things going on in my life, and then you can start getting things, spinning things around to the positive side.
Of course.
But like you say, those internal, that chimp, as I call it, in the middle of my brain there, I never try and fight him. I always say, thanks for letting me know. I know it sounds mad, and she's a bloke speaking, but I'll say, oh, thanks for letting me know about that. Oh, what I'll do is I'll deal with that later. And I find that then, like I've got after me and you finish this, I've got a couple of phone calls to do, which I haven't put them off. But I find that, I'll start tidying around and doing stuff and vacuuming. I think, I've got time now, I'll do that tomorrow. I'm like, bloody hell, I could have just done it, and I put it off. I just think, I'm vacuuming around, and I think, I know I should have bloody phoned this and done this and done that. I think, I'll do it tomorrow. But
I'm wondering, what's that about? What's the putting off about? Is it that you don't want the phone?
No, because when I've done it, I feel absolutely brilliant. It makes me feel great. And sometimes deep down, I don't know I'm being anxious about something until I picked up the phone and I said, God, I feel great now. Sometimes I don't even realise it was that. It's subconscious.
Checking the physiological side of things, how you feel, that gives you a great insight into what's going on for you. It's something that I use. So if I've got to make a challenging phone call or a difficult phone call, I'll ask, how am I feeling right there? And they'll be like, well, I feel a bit nervous. Well, what's that about for me? Asking yourself the right questions, and then it puts you back in control.
But really, if a listener or a viewer hasn't got those skills to ask the right questions to themselves, then you've either got to read it, which I do, read books to help myself, or you got to come see someone like yourself.
Books are fantastic in many respects, but the one thing I say about books is there's no accountability.
No.
And in that, you'll read the book. I hear it often. People go, I've read this great book, but where's the accountability? That's where therapy can help, in a sense, because it enables a sense of accountability. So if somebody comes along, we'll have sessions, and I'll say, well, what's happened this week? What have you done this week? So it keeps you with it all the time. But when you read a book, you'll read certain things. Oh, that's brilliant. I really like that. And it'll live with you for a moment. Close the book, put it away.
Yeah.
And then you forget about it.
Yeah.
Therapy. The big thing with anxiety, depression and self-esteem is how you regulate your emotions as well. That's really, really important, is emotional regulation.
But what do you mean by...
So it's when you're in certain situations that can be stressful, or you can feel quite demotivated, or you've had something that's gone on in your life that's been demotivating, job loss, or you haven't got the contract, or relationship breakup. It's how you are in that moment. It's how you regulate your emotions, rather than pretending, it don't. Some people might go, I'm not fussed about that. Yeah, I didn't care anyway.
It's got to hurt you having a breakup. I've always said, give me a 5-plate squat, 30-plate leg press, and a 20-plate bench press. Nothing will hurt you as a breakup if you really love someone. And there's nothing wrong with, do you have to go through that process? Or can you, of grief, of missing someone and all the, not eating and not sleeping, surely they're natural things we all have to go through.
Absolutely.
But it can cause, well, do you think it causes depression? Can those type of things cause depression?
Yes, because it affects, again, it goes back to your own learning growing up and your own belief system. So if you've had when we're in a relationship, we invest a huge amount in each other. When we're in a relationship, we take on each other's problems. It's a fact.
Yeah.
But when it ends, it's how you recover from that that's key. How much you put into that relationship, whether you'll see yourself as possibly ever getting into another one. That's depending on age. When you're younger, you'll bounce back.
Yeah.
40 upwards, you begin to think, So it's more of a loss, because some people might think, I'm never going to get another relationship like this, or maybe I'll never get another relationship ever. So it's how we view it that will impact how we feel. So if we feel we're never going to get in another relationship, I think you're going to feel.
Shit, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
is that where the low self-esteem comes in?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because people do you invest a huge amount in relationships. You have children together, you get married, you have the home. There's a lot in this, and naturally, when it breaks up.
What I've tried to do, I don't know if this is a good thing, you're probably going to say no. When I can be driving around, I think, if I didn't have my first wife, I wouldn't have 2 beautiful kids. I can think back, if we were still together now, we'd have this, we'd have that, but we're not. But I've got 2 beautiful kids, and so is she out of it. So that's something to be absolutely grateful for. Another relationship, I can pick the plus points out of that, and a recent relationship, I can pick a good point about that. And also in business things, I think, well, that didn't work out, but this did. So I think that might have come with age, though, because I think if you wouldn't have taught, I don't think a young Dino would have spoke like this. I think an older Dino, because I've got 60 years of experience now of life skills. As you said earlier, I think when you're younger, perhaps you
bounce back, don't you? You would bounce back because you think you've got plenty of time. I think that's what it comes down to. You think I've got plenty of time. It's not saying when your relationship ends when you're young, you're not devastated, but you can move on. But as you get older, you do get a little bit more. Well, you get more wiser. It's a fact. You're a little bit more reflective. And you said earlier on, you tend to focus on all the positives when the relationship splits up, don't you?
Yeah.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
When it ends, you go, it was brilliant, and I'm wondering why it went like this. But also, there's a reason why it ended.
I mean, you're very right. I mean, you tend to look back through these rose-tinted glasses here. You only see the good. and you don't realise, you know, the bad on both parts, because a marriage relationship doesn't end. You know, it's just not. You know, like some of that. Oh, she's this or she's that. Well, no, there's always two sides to a story. There is always two sides to a story.
Yes,
and no one leaves a happy marriage.
No, of course not. But you'll always feel, you'll be, what could I have done? I wonder what we'd be doing now. So what that does, it keeps you in that same space, doesn't it?
But it does. But also now, isn't it? As a 60-year-old Dino, now thinking of the mistakes I've made as a 20 or 30-year-old, a 60-year-old Dino would have told the 20-year-old Dino, "What are you doing, you cock?" But that's a 20-year-old Dino, so a 20-year-old Dino wouldn't listen to a 60-year-old dude. So, in a way, it's hard for me to, because some of the, I mean, I couldn't even repeat some of the catastrophic mistakes I've made, and I have. But that's a 20-year-old kid with a shit upbringing because he's got no social skills, who's made those mistakes. Now, a 60-year-old Dino wouldn't make those mistakes anymore. He wouldn't. But also, a 60-year-old Dino now is. My time is very valuable, and I can't waste any more years in any sort of pain, whether it's emotionally with a person. I can't. I just don't want that again. At 60, I don't want that. I've got to go out laughing. I have to go out laughing. Surely I've got to have 20 years of laughter left. So so perhaps it's an age thing. I don't know. But and you like you say, I was looking back at his rose-tinted glasses, you know.
But that can keep you in the same place when you.
So it's an old saying, just quickly, because I know you're going to forget, and so will I. Is keeping one foot in the past not going to allow you to move to the future?
It's accepting that what's happened.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You can't change the past. There's nothing you can do. You can learn from it. Sometimes life. Some people can coast through life, fantastic. Other people's not. Other people don't. You know, if you'd had a chat with that 20-year-old Dino, he like you said, he wouldn't have listened because he wouldn't have had the skills to listen, and he wouldn't have had no basis of any previous experience to base it on. So sometimes we just have to make those mistakes, and that's a fact. We just have to make them,
and that's the painful part about
and that's
life.
the painful part. And upbringing plays a big role in that. It does play a big role in that, in preparing you for life and managing. It doesn't.
But I've only just recognised that myself, and a lot of viewers and listeners, you know, at my age, you think, shit, that's why because of, you don't realise. But go on, sorry.
Yeah, therapy. That's where therapy can help. We don't dig up all the past. You don't have to go through every little event or every event that went through. Even some of the bigger events, we don't have to go through. But it can help you make sense of your current situation and why that happens to you, or why you react in a certain way.
Yeah, just gives you skills.
It does, to recognise yourself in it. That's that self-awareness and regulate your emotions, so you don't just blow in a situation. So an example might have been a lot of relationships end through poor communication. The communication just ends up fizzling away, and you become more and more distant. But there'll be elements of yourself. You may be an explosive partner, or you may be a person who don't listen. And the irony is, when you realise that, when you go into the next relationship, you become a listener, or you become less explosive.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, it's a pisser.
It is, but
it's a real pisser.
Sometimes we have to learn a lot hard way.
I can't get the ins and outs, but you don't listen, blah, 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 blah. And you think, fucking hell. And you think, oh God, but you can't. You'd beat yourself into the ground if you kept thinking like that, because those mistakes you might. Yeah, but I think as long as you learn and don't keep doing it on that wheel,
therapy can interrupt that.
Yeah,
it interrupts it. There's usually a cycle how it plays out. Invariably, there's always a cycle with that.
I remember only recently. I mean, I seen this guy. He was going to come in the gym. He was a big guy. This gym, big lump, tattoos, earrings. Slammed his car doors quite loud. Didn't park it in the right place. That got my attention. Revving his car outside, music on loud, and then straight away, the chimps like that. Oh fucking hell! Okay, here we go. Looking at him. Got myself. My chest was out. Got everything ready. In he comes. What a lovely bloke he was. Came in. Oh, hello, Dino. Oh, my minutes comes in. What a lovely bloke. He even bought a couple of hoodies. What a cock was I. So straight away, my anxiety levels went through the roof. But then what I've done recently, and I couldn't have been further wrong, but recently, by reading my books, I haven't come and lie on a couch or whatever you guys do, but by reading the books, it's just managed me just to steer back a little bit, breathe before I actually say anything.
Give yourself some. I say this. Give yourself a little bit of reflection time. A little bit,
But that can only be. Sometimes that can be literally seconds.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So me and you were talking now, and that door's going banging, banging, banging. I think, oh God, got to cut this off. Go down to the door, and it could be poor old Emma next door who's just fell down the stairs, and I could be helping her. Do you know what I mean? I think, oh God, you know what I mean? And then I think, oh, what a cock, she just fell down the stairs.
But with that, it's accepting that we have those thoughts as well.
Yeah.
And not beating yourself up. So it would be an interruption. If that were to happen, someone knocked the door, we'd stop it. You'd be annoyed because we're in the middle of doing this.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be annoyed, of course you are. It's recognising that, and then when you see what happens, you go, oh, well, you know what, it's a little bit serious. That's fine as well.
Yeah.
It's acknowledging each part of it.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, that guy who he come, your back went up, this is my territory. The old alpha comes out.
Madness.
And you're waiting for it.
Yeah, because I thought he was going to come in all guns blazing.
And then what happened?
It was just a lovely bloke.
A bit like I said earlier on, 99% of the time, what we think is going to happen doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's managing that.
Yeah.
It's managing. It's hard. Believe me, it's hard. It's not easy. This is why you got to be forgiving with yourself. You're not just. It's not going to happen overnight. But it's recognising yourself in certain situations. Why do I do that? What's going on for me there? Just asking.
And do you think by writing a couple of lines down every day, it helps? Because sometimes, I couldn't even show you what's in my little book at the side of the bed. I think, but then I think that reaffirms in my head. It might help the viewers and the listeners. I don't know, and you might tell me I'm totally wrong. But I think that by me writing it down, it sort of puts something in my head rather than just me thinking, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that, Dino, and then the phone rings and you forgot about that.
Yeah.
But if I write it down and then look at them, I don't beat myself up. I think it even causes me a little bit of embarrassment sometimes. I don't get, road rage anymore. I used to be terrible. I don't get any of that anymore. I haven't got the time of day. I haven't got the interest. So there's a lot of things I am combating, but I think for me, writing it down, would you suggest that the viewers or the listeners write it down or not?
Yeah, write it down. I do it.
I do.
I do it. Well, in the therapy world, we call it journaling.
Okay.
It's becoming more popular, actually. On Facebook, there's this one thing that keeps coming up over and over and over again called a men's journal. And you just write down how I'm feeling today. It doesn't have to be anything deep or profound. It can just be, I'm feeling a bit rubbish, or I'm a little bit worried about this. It helps you make sense of it, as I guess it does for you. You look at it at the end of the day and you go, oh, I can't believe I was actually thinking that. And then next time you may think it a little bit less.
Yeah, I think what it does. Oh God, I keep talking about me, but I think that how it helps me, James, is the fact that I'm acknowledging it, and then straight away, for some reason, when that situation arises the next time, or if it's going to arise the next time, I'm prepared for it. So
yeah,
I ain't been an arsehole, but I didn't have much time, and I think, oh, you cock him around. But now I think, hold on, he might be having a bad day. It might be, he could have just lost a family member, he's cut me up, and I'm going to get out and all this business. That guy could have just come from a funeral, a wake, or anything, or he just could have had a terrible phone call. And does it really matter?
In the scheme of things, it doesn't, because in 20 minutes' time, you're driving away, you don't actually care. It was the same with me when I was a lot younger. I was very fiery. But as you get older, you're hopeful. You usually become a bit more reflective. Yeah. And I think that's what I hear from you. You're more reflective now. You give yourself that moment to pause, as when you're younger, you don't. You're kind of fired up, you're raring to go. But as you get older, you begin to reflect on what's going on for you, hopefully not beat yourself up. But it just allows you that little bit of time for you to say, you know what, I'll just let that go. I do it now, I just let it go.
Yeah, I just want to be a better person for myself and around other people as well. Because if someone's an arsehole, you don't want to be around them all the time.
No, you don't. Because unfortunately, there are people in this world that can bring you down. If you're around somebody who brings you down all the time, or you feel like it sucks the life out of you, you have to make a choice. And sometimes it can be hard choice. Sometimes that can be family members. Sometimes it can be close friends. But it can have an incredibly negative impact. I can use a personal example of that happening with an individual. I used to speak on the phone. I used to be on there for a long, long time. And after I come off, I feel exhausted. I feel drained. You carry it with you. You carry their emotions. Now, I don't mind hearing that, whether it's a friend or a family member. But then when it begins to happen over months and it's the same problem, it kind of...
But that's what we was talking about initially, whereby, you know, you look at that person, you think, oh God, it's him again. But shouldn't he then be asking for help of somebody more professional than...
Some people don't want it. You have to want it.
Or some people, basically, some people moaning for the sake of moaning.
I seen something quite a few years ago, and it's always stuck with me. There was a guy in America. I think he's dead now. He's one of these life coaches or motivational speakers. His name is Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh, I have heard the surname, yeah.
And he used a brilliant example. He said some people don't want to be helped. He said the reason why, because if you help them, then they can't moan at you, and you.
Right. Okay.
That's their reason for
some
living.
people just like the drama.
Yeah, and that's it.
But as long as they know that, which they don't, obviously.
Sometimes they don't, but if that's what they want, you have the good thing about life is
I can't be around.
You have a choice, don't you?
I can't be around those people.
No,
I can't. I avoid those people like the plague. I can't be around them.
I do the same, because then I'm in a better place to help other people who really want help. But some people like the drama. If they like the drama, great. But do you want to be part of it? For me, I'd say no, absolutely not. But some people, that's what keeps them going. They don't want their problems fixed. They like having problems.
Well, I know a few people where I've passed your card on, and that phone's never going to ring. It's never going to ring in a million years. But I've done my bit. That's all I can do. Right then, another question here. Here we go. Let me get the specs on for this one. Testosterone and the misconception of aggression, and as I've put, or is it true more testosterone equals more aggression? So I'll just repeat that. Testosterone and the misconception of aggression, or is it true that more testosterone equals more aggression? So,
first thing, I'm going to put that straight back to you. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, and if I'm going to be honest, if I can't be honest in front of you, then I'm fucked. The only way I can describe testosterone for me is when took testosterone for bodybuilding, it exacerbated my personality. Now, I've obviously had a lot of underlying issues because of my home life as a child, where I've had, I know it sounds absolutely terrible, I've had fights for attention, done things for attention because I'm not getting attention at home. So I think for me, it didn't suit my personality and it exacerbated the worst in me. I think. Okay. I think that's the only thing I can say. And other things as well, a bit, not more narcissistic, but I think bodybuilders are like that anyway, because the only way we can, this is talking about bodybuilding, is the only way we can check ourselves is either by measuring or looking in the mirror. But obviously some of us are a bit more over the top. I've got some customers, I shan't name your name, they're talking to me in the reception. I've got mirrors where the supplements are behind me, and they're looking over their shoulder, talking to me, looking like this. They can't stop themselves. Now, I've never been to that level, but for me, I've got to be honest, if I'm going to be truthfully honest, it definitely brought out the worst in me. Not all the time, but it definitely brought out the worst in me, I thought. And I've often said, and people won't agree, I think if you're going to go down the testosterone therapy route of training, bodybuilding, taking steroids, or whatever one you're talking, I think for me, it's a single, you might disagree, I think it's a single man's life. I think if you've got a partner, unless you've got a great nature and you've had you're a laid back dude, then great. But for me personally, it brought out the worst in me.
Well, the research with that is people who do take, I'm going to say, large amounts of testosterone.
That's go on.
When they do that, it's because there's usually low self-esteem, or there's something pre-existing there. In that, so they will take that. You mentioned I just want to go back actually, Dino, to when you said it brought out the worst in me, and I'm wondering, when you say that, in what respect?
Quick-tempered, even more. I am tunnel visioned anyway. If I'm going to set my heart on something, I'll do it. If I'm going to do a competition, I'm going to do it. And I just thought, having two beautiful kids, I was thinking, oh God. Same again, looking back through rose-tinted glasses. I think, oh bollocks, why did I behave like this? Why did I do that? It was all about me because I had to get an end result. But as far as I'm concerned, to be a champion or to do anything, you've got to give 200% to get those trophies. And I look at those trophies and people will say, there's a picture of me on the wall, I did the over 50s. And I did all right, I won in my hometown in front of the gym and it was great. But I look at that photograph there and I think, I don't look at, it gives me two thoughts. Okay, I got in great shape, but to what cost? The people around me, myself, and everything else, to what cost did it cost me to look like that? So, yeah, I've done it, I did it. I won, I got my trophy, I give my medal to my mate, the trophy's above your head there. But would I do it again now? No. Would a 18-year-old kid do it, Dino? Probably yes. Do you know what I mean? So, but for me, I think it did bring out the worst. Well, I know it brought the worst out of me. But, but I haven't had the best childhood, so there's always been drama in my past life.
And that's what you said there is really critical, because actually increased testosterone, it doesn't always equal aggression. It doesn't.
But isn't testosterone aggression? Because we're gonna get what you call it there on the comments here, all the fucking scientists. Well, fucking that John's PhD says blah blah blah. I'm just talking personally. It made me feel more, just more aggressive, more quick-tempered.
It exaggerates pre-existing aggression.
Okay.
So what that means is the aggression is actually learned. Because I'm aware that people have been on high amounts of testosterone, and I'm going to use the old word that got bandied around when I started training.
Don't say road rage.
Roid rage. But it was. But
I've had roid rage to fucking cause road rage. Come on, anyway.
But people always thought, you're on high amounts of steroids, so that it naturally equals that, and it doesn't. The research, and this is very, very recent research in this, is that it exacerbates or exaggerates previous aggression, which is usually learned.
Okay.
From growing. So if you're a naturally aggressive person by nature, and it can get a little bit complex here, so I'm going to kind of rein it in so I don't go too all over the place. But if say for instance you grew up and you were bullied, or you have that low sense of, you have low self-esteem, etc., and then you already feel quite inferior, and then your testosterone levels go up, it'll exacerbate it.
Yeah.
Quite significantly. I've got to try and remember his name, but there's I think he's a neurologist, a doctor, and he used an example about when it comes to testosterone. The Chinese, one of the Chinese emperors years and years ago, he had a load of soldiers, and they all were castrated, so it lowered the testosterone levels, but they were still aggressive because they were previously aggressive. So that's how it works.
Did they do this as an experiment, or did they just
No. They just did it. They just did it. But that stands out for me.
You just documented this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a book called Behave by. It's called Behave. I can't remember the guy's name. It eludes me at the moment, but they've done a variety of experiments, even when it comes to chimps as well. You were on about the chimp earlier on. But in the monkey kingdom, they'll have alphas in there, and what they did, another experiment of that was, there was 5 monkeys, and they give the middle one high amounts of testosterone. So you got so the middle one in the ranking order.
Yeah.
Thinking that the middle one would then challenge the alpha. Didn't do that. Because it was through social learning. So what he did was, he was more of a dip to number 4 and number 5.
Oh, okay.
He wouldn't challenge the ones higher up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and the same if they took that monkey out of there, or an alpha in one pack, give it more testosterone, and then put it into another pack, and it was challenged by another alpha, that was it, end of. So it comes to social learning more so than I have more testosterone, I might be big and powerful. Obviously, physically it does. But if we look in a dominance hierarchy, it doesn't.
Yeah, I think because I had a lot of frustrations from my childhood and this, that, and the other, and if you're having a bad day because of X, Y, and Z, from the past, blah blah blah, then I had less tolerance or less self-control, as we was talking earlier, to take a deep breath, think about a situation and do it. I was just like, oh mate, just fuck off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's no good. But especially when I had 2 children, not that I'd be nasty to them or anything else, but I wasn't an arsehole all the time. I just noticed that I was just a lot more quick-tempered.
Yeah, more irritable.
Yeah. And also as well, I don't think, because it obviously increases your sex drive, I don't think that's, helpful then, because obviously then you think you're bloody Superman, and you can't be Superman forever. Then when you come off, and like obviously I am now, normal then doesn't seem normal for a while, but then, normal has to feel normal.
Yeah, it does. What I will say is the problem with high amounts of testosterone, it does actually increase anxiety and paranoia.
Oh, okay.
It does, but...
And how does paranoia it manifest itself? How do you mean?
It creates paranoia in individuals, high amounts. Not too sure on that without going into the specific... Well, actually, what I will say is, so the paranoia can be part of your personality.
Yeah.
So it can make you more paranoid. I don't know if you may have come across it, but in the 90s, it was documented with this guy. It was actually in one of the papers. Can't remember. It was about 94, 95, 96, around about that time. And this one guy was on huge amounts of steroids, and he thought he was being followed. He thought his mum was against him, and he used to do. It was
basically that's his personality.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it pulls the worst out.
Yeah. So yeah. So. And I'm happier now and enjoying my training now in the last few years, because I'm natural. It's just doing it for the joy. I started that originally, whereas when he was on testosterone, it was not so much all about that, because it was never about that for me. It was all about everything. But I know guys now where if they don't have their stuff, that's more devastating than missing a workout. They can miss a workout. Oh, I'll leave chest, that tomorrow, which is what builds the muscle. But if they can't get their hands on which, that, and the other stuff, then that bothers them 10 times.
It's the meaning, the attribute behind the gear. That's what it is beyond steroids. It's what it means for them. It becomes a psychological. It's almost a psychological fix. There's some people, they'll be on like 3 grams of testosterone, which is a huge amount. And they're not taking it even to get bigger. They're taking it to say they're taking it.
I think I've got to be honest now. I'm not condoning it was in our day, but we took it to complement our training to get to do competitions, because everybody's doing it. So you had no choice. There was natural competitions, but as I said when we was on the settee earlier, I had all the intentions of being a natural guy. Lovely, couldn't wait. Brilliant. Then you go backstage, and I'm like, I can't name his name, who I told you. I'm like, what the hell are you doing here, mate? Well, I know you're bloody on him. And I thought, well, this is nuts. So for us back in the day, it was always a little bit of an add to with your supplements, with everything else. It wasn't the be all. It was always about the training. Now I found now, especially in the world we live in now, with fucking beautiful white teeth, Botox, fucking jet black hair, where people think that they have to look a certain way to look in that thing, whereas I literally don't give a shit. If somebody said to me, I don't like it because your teeth aren't white, your hair ain't black, I'd be like, well, fucking, that's not me. Yeah. This is me. So I think a lot of kids now are doing it for the wrong reasons.
Totally agree.
Doing it for the wrong reasons.
So totally agree. I noticed it change in the kind of late noughties. That's when it began to really change. But it's as you said there, it creates social media, because I think that really fuels it, creates unrealistic expectations in people. Some people will just take it just for the sake of taking it. They've probably never been in a gym before, and they'll take it to go to the gym straight away, and then
And also, just to go on holiday.
That's it. Yeah,
just to go on holiday.
Just if they're going to get married, whatever that looks like, they'll do it. But one thing I've noticed is they seem to take huge amounts, and it almost becomes a competition on how much stuff you're on.
I don't see that so much now. I've noticed in the days, but I've never noticed that where people have took this and took that. I think, there should be, it's nothing to brag about, it's something, less is more, and as it's been proven now, because even now I'm coming back to I'm not my best because I'm 61, but I know with my training, I look into my training more, my diet more, I always have, but I noticed I'm not as good as I was, but I'm doing all right. You know what I mean? But it's just the recovery process. Obviously, is a lot greater with steroids. But going back to testosterone, for me, I think it just exacerbated 1,000,000% the worst in me, made it worse. And also now, but the main thing is now, the crux of it now is, I think a lot of kids are using it for the wrong reasons, and a lot of, more importantly, coaches now are advising people they don't know. So if I'm on the internet, you hire me as a coach, you don't know me, I don't know you, I have no idea what your ailments are, you can lie to me, I've got no moral compass with you, it doesn't matter if anything happens to you, there's no ownership on me, I'm not going to get done for manslaughter if I can give you a mega course and you have a heart attack and you die because you've got something wrong with your valves and I didn't know. It doesn't matter to me, but I wouldn't do that personally. Yeah. But I know people who are giving men, and more importantly women, testosterone therapy just over a phone or a fucking email, and to me that's just madness. At least we had the foresight, there was some literature around, so we read about it, we knew what we was getting into. I didn't like any of that side of the sport at all, and which is why I'm saying now I enjoy it better for the love of it, like I did when I first started, and I'm a better clear-minded thinking person for it. But the kids won't even read about it now. They just won't even come in the gym and they'll hire a coach, or they've got a team behind them. I'm like, what are you the worst? I couldn't be more embarrassed if I won a competition or any of those. I won those shows or I lost those shows. Yeah. I lost a lot of shows and I won a lot of shows, whether it was running. I lost them and I won them because it was all down to me when it was running, whether it was whatever it did. It was me, it was my diary, it was me. But now, to go on stage now, and I just want to thank my team. I couldn't be fucking more embarrassed. I don't want to thank a team. I just want to do it. I just want to write my stuff down. I want to make mistakes. I want to see how creatine works for a few weeks. I want to see how vitamin C. I want to get a big lump on the back of my neck with a bar, squatting for a few years. I want to make a lot of mistakes, so I know then it's just me. Yeah. And I've gone to as far as I can possibly get naturally, which I did. So that was it. And I also had the balls, sorry to say, to know, hold on, Dino, you're never going to make it as a professional bodybuilder. What are you doing? I'm not, and I wasn't. My hips are wider than my shoulders, so I had to be honest with myself, and enough was enough. But a lot of kids are just taking it for recreational use, which I think is crazy.
It is, and it goes back to knowing why you're doing it in the first place.
I'm never judging anybody. If they want to do it, that's fine.
No, absolutely.
That's fine. If you want to crack on it, that's great.
There is a better way. I think there's a lot of misinformation about it, and I think that's what a lot of people get caught up in.
But I think you need to study these things yourself, put the time and effort in. I think, this is just me personally talking, I'm sure your comments are below going to be, what you want about your old cock? What do you know about it? But for me, I enjoyed the process of trying different other things and trying this with that first.
These people, I'm curious with the age range with these. Are we looking 20s?
Yeah, young.
With the risk,
but more important, they haven't been in the gym for 5 minutes.
Yeah. The risk taking is quite high, and that's one thing increased testosterone does do as well. Increases risk taking. Gives you you become overconfident, and it increases risk taking.
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering if that's a factor in this.
Maybe, who knows? But I know some of the fucking clothes I used to wear just to get attention. I'd be like, oh god. But that was the 90s.
It's interesting when you say that, because obviously when I started training back in '94, it was the same. You wear I've seen the big luminous baggy pants and or bottoms and the top. And yeah, it's just really different now. It is very different, and also the quality.
You don't know what you're getting, do you?
Of the quality, because you can get it on the internet.
Oh, that's madness.
You can get it on the internet. You can buy it. I did see something on this, and a lot of it isn't what it says it is.
Of course, it's not going to be what it says.
It's just not what it says it is. And there was a program on the TV about it, and about young lads using steroids, and they'd done a load of tests, and their liver was out, their bloods were out.
Well, that's the other thing as well. I mean, I know a certain pro, a top pro who won multiple titles, who had the foresight, and at least he did that and went to have his bloods checked and everything else. They also said, he's having blood transfusions, he's going to be like a fucking load of bollocks. He was just having his blood checked every so many weeks to look after himself. And if you're doing that, then that's fine, because you're taking some accountability for yourself and also for your loved ones. I mean, who am I to say? That's up to you. But going back to the original question here about, as testosterone and the misconception of aggression, for me, it manifested my upbringing.
It exaggerates pre-existing aggression. That's what it does. So you could be the nicest guy in the world, you could take it, and there'll be nothing. You'll just be, you'll be fine. But if there's something there, that's what it does. That's the truth of it, and it's researched, it's documented.
People are going to disagree with this, and all scientists are going to be on the phone.
That's fine. I made sure this was thoroughly researched. It exaggerates pre-existing aggression. That's what it does.
Yeah, it exacerbated my personality.
Yeah.
Not my person. Yeah.
It would do. It would do, because it comes down to why you're doing it. A lot of people take the steroids as well for not all. I've got to qualify that, but because they have low self-esteem, they may not like the way they look at it, and that's going to come from, if you've got low self-esteem, you've got a certain belief about yourself.
Also, what about the quick fix thing, where people don't want to put the work in, which is the main part of the gym back in the day. For me, the whole essence of the gym. I mean, I never even knew anything about it. I know it sounds absolutely unbelievable to people today, but I had no idea. I just thought in America they've got better meat, they got better chicken, they drink better quality milk. The only thing I did think, Russia, they're up to something in Russia. The fuck, I said, what they got? Do you know what I mean? And they sold us that thing. I remember even in the supplement industry, do not take unless you want to get huge. Mail order, I'd order 10 boxes. It was a load of shit. But we was always pushing the boundaries and pushing the boundaries and pushing the boundaries as bodybuilders anyway. But for me, personally, once I got involved in that side of it, just wasn't for me. And I had to take ownership of my own life and say, well, this is as far as your legs are shit, because you used to be a runner. Your hips are wider than your shoulders. You ain't going to get anywhere, mate. And also, a lot of people, that's all they've got in their life.
Yeah, it becomes. But you said this really early on. It's almost, it's a single man's game, and you become so focused on it that it does become your life.
It does.
It's a trade-off. It's asking the question: why am I doing it? Why am I taking it? And answering honestly, is it because I just want to look good in a tight top when I go out? Is it because I want to compete? Just ask the question, why?
More importantly, as long as you know the health risks, and there is going to be a trade-off.
Of course there is.
And don't think there isn't, because there will, especially long-term use. And also as well, just get your. I know I ain't going to preach, but just to have a due care and attention to yourself, and also the loved ones around you. Have all your health checks and everything else.
Yes.
And you can see in this day and age in bodybuilding now, it's not very nice to say, but the keeling over, and there's old bodybuilder. So there's the new age of bodybuilder where I think, to be honest, that they're trying shit and just take more steroids to look better. Whereas I think the guys back in the day probably took less but trained harder, I thought. But there's guys from some of the old boys are passing away. But this new generation of bodybuilder,
they're dying quickly. They're dying quickly. I see people in that kind of capacity. I do give them some advice in that area. In relation to if they're using or anything like that. I think that helps because I have an understanding of it. But a lot of people do it for the wrong reasons. A lot of people realise that you don't need to take huge amounts, and there's other ways where you can get big. When I very first started training, my old man said to me, it's getting as big as possibly can, natural hard work, and that's what it is. It's hard work. A lot of it, when you look at a lot of modern bodybuilders compared to what they were, I'm going to say the 90s, they look crap.
It's not that. I think, to be honest, now most bodybuilders today just look generic. They all look the same.
But there's the conditioning's just not there.
You're not the first one to say that, you know. So I mean, I'm sure people are going to post pictures on here and say, "Well, look at him, mate. Look at him." But in general, back in our day, some of the average trainers in the gym would have pissed on a lot of professional bodybuilders. You know, especially in the UK, there were some great bodybuilders in the UK. Who didn't make the top 5 or 6, 7 at the British. It would have pissed on a lot of these professionals now.
I do look at them, and it's just not very appealing. They all do look the same. There's something, I can't put my finger on it, there's something missing.
I mean, I don't know who's on some of the covers. But it's just not, you know, perhaps it's me being an old bastard thinking, you know, looking at the old guys and thinking, you know, but, you know, if I don't know whoever got on the front, whoever got anybody even, look at this guy. I mean, this guy was one of my favourites here, and he looks absolutely great today. And there's a quick story behind it. This is, I don't know if you can see this guy. Yeah, I'll just show you there. This guy here, Robbie Robinson. Obviously, you know, took the gear and all the rest of it, but even today, Robbie looks great, and it's a proof in the pudding at Dinos, because when we've got the old videos on. I mean, who was this? Boyako. Some of the great old physiques. They were, and they wasn't as big as these guys today. They certainly weren't. But it just looked like they were more achievable. For me, they looked more appealing. I mean, he was one of my favourites, maybe because he was short like me. His name was Danny Padilla.
Yeah.
Not the best photo of Danny Padilla, but a great physique, Danny. And a lot of you know, people are going to be terrorising me on the phone. But, you know, we bought into all this, you know, the old training methods. We tried the training methods out. You know, I don't know, who's this guy here? I don't even know. This guy's a Czechoslovakian dude. I mean, you look at that, okay, his legs weren't the best. But you look at those guys, and for me, you know, these pictures were on my bedroom wall. They were. I mean, that's another story in itself. I remember coming down the stairs the one time, and my dad says to me, not that he ever spoke to us much, he said to me, you know, he said, can I have a word with you? I says, yeah. Come here, big one. I says, yeah, come on. And he says, your brother's got a picture of Pamela Anderson on the wall, and fucking girl out of bloody, what do you call it, Dukes of Hazzard. And you got some fucking 4 or 5 blokes covered in oil with a pair of pants. You all right? So what do you mean I'm all right? No, I thought it was, what's wrong? You know what I mean?
In all fairness, I had Bruce Lee. I had Bruce Lee on my wall. I did have Bruce Lee. So,
in all seriousness, I hope that it's going to cause a lot of debate, that is.
Which is great.
Which is great. But the bottom line is, just look after your health. You don't need to take tons of steroids, and just make sure you take them for the right reasons. If it was me, that's just me. I ain't telling you what to do. It's up to you. What you do is your life. But at the end of the day, for me, it weren't the best. It just wasn't the best time of my life when I was taking them. It wasn't.
Just ask why you're taking it. You just ask that simple question.
And I think some personalities, it just doesn't suit.
No, it doesn't. Again, it goes back. If you're naturally aggressive or you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it'll make it worse, unfortunately.
Right, then we're going to stop there because we've been rattling on with the mics and without the mics, because I have bought cheapo batteries and they lasted 2 minutes. So sorry about that, James, but thanks for coming into the studio. The first one in the studio since the lockdown. So what do you think of it?
It's smart. It's nice. I've seen it. I've only seen it. How people are going to see us on here, but it's very, very nice.
No, you're more than welcome. But let's stop all the waffle, because I know the real reason you came here. You came on to take the golden disc on. The golden disc. Now let me unhook this. There we go. So we got James. There we go. Let me just show you folks here. This is why everybody comes on. And at the moment, James is on the top of the list. But we're going to remove him off there, and we're going to write James' time down. So James, we're going to run VT. On your marks, get set, go. Let's make sure he's looking through the middle. That's the only rules. He starts in the middle. Here we go. Let's see the power of the mind of the psychotherapists. There we go. Looks really still. Yes, he's thinking about this. So Mr. James Finn is going to be leader of the board, but for how long? That's the question with the golden disc. Yeah, he's not faltering. There's a little bit of shaking going on.
That's fine.
He's saying it's fine. Okay, I like that in a man. I like that in a man. Here we go. Can he hold it? He's got the time it takes to touch the ball worker box. Time's ticking away. Time's ticking away. Doing well. He's doing well. There's no movement. There's a bit of heavy breathing, but there's no movement. Oh, he's over the minute. Here we go. Gravity always wins in the end. But how bad does he want it? That's the question. Gravity's pulling him down. He's fighting on. There we go now. Now we're going. He's going. He's going. Can he hang on? Come on now. You know you want this. You know you've got to set the example. You're the leader, but how long for? There's going to be people all over this. How long has he got? He's hanging on. He's shaking. Surely he's going to hang on for another 10 or 15 seconds. Come on, give it everything. This is your chance to set the standard that everyone's going to beat. Here we go. Come on, you get one chance, one chance, one chance, one chance. Here we go. He's hanging up on the skin of his team. Oh.
That last bit, he just went, no matter willpower, it's my body that give up, not the mind there.
So how, James, do you think you did? What time do you think you held the golden disc to? So you're going to be the leader of the board. You're going to be setting an example.
Do you know what? My hands are sweating now because I want to be at the top.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I don't like losing.
You don't like losing?
I know I'm going to do the first one, but I know people then have got a standard to beat. Well, kid, you know my hands are sweating now.
They're sweating?
I'm more sweaty now.
Let me move that over there so we can see me write this down. Because it's all live. There's Mr. Finn here. And whoever comes in the studio next, this is the time you're going to have to beat.
The first number's an hour.
So not only has it been a pleasure to talk to you, and there's going to be debate after debate after debate after this, but James, you did it in an exceptional time of 2 minutes, 1 second, 0.3.
Oh,
How about that?
I hit the 2 minute mark, so do you know what? I'm
So
pleased
just
with that.
over 2 minutes. So James, thanks for popping in. And for now, you are top of the leaderboard. But for how long? Who knows? Who's next going to be in the studio for Dinos podcast? But for now, the call of the iron's far too strong. James, thanks for coming in. Cheers. Top of the tree. But for how long? Who knows?
I'm happy with that.